will immigration become an issue handled by states as much as the federal government? And as you mentioned earlier, Elizabeth, right now Arizona is enjoined from completely putting SB 1070 as written into effect. What has changed, if anything, since that judge's ruling in the summer?
Well, I think on the ground, things have changed some for some police officers who think that they still have that power, even though they don't, according to some accounts. The case is currently being considered by the Ninth Circuit. We don't know what will happen after that, but I'm sure there will be an appeal to the Supreme Court. The bottom line with SB 1070 and other attempts by states to regulate immigration is that these laws are preempted. The Supreme Court has consistently held that it is the authority of the federal government to regulate immigration, and that is not in question.
That's the plain language of the Constitution, isn't it? That it's a federal responsibility to regulate immigration?
It's enumerated in a couple ways, but it's mainly implied in the Constitution. But it's been crystal clear that because we don't want this patchwork of immigration laws, because we don't want each city, each town, each county, each state to have its own laws, it makes sense for a number of reasons that our immigration policy should be federal. It makes sense for reasons that have to do with trade, for reasons that have to do with foreign policy, for reasons that have to do with just what's practical. It makes sense for immigration to be federal.
Now, there's still more legal battles that have to be fought by the opponents and the proponents of this law. It's not clear where it's going to end up, is it? As far as where it stands right now in the appeals process.
Well, we're still waiting on that Ninth Circuit decision, so it's unclear where things stand at this moment. But given the way the Supreme Court has made such decisions in the past, I think it's reasonable to assume that ultimately we will maintain a federal immigration policy as one nation that's unified with one set of rules about who's a citizen and who's not, how people are treated within the country and how they're not.
But if you're waiting in a state capital somewhere else in the country to write a law like SB 1070, you have to wait for these other shoes to drop, don't you, before you write a law that's going to withstand challenge? Or is that part of the political to and fro, Ali?
This issue right now at a state level is part of the political storm. You have some states who, yes, are waiting to see what is going to happen in the lawsuit. You have other states who are just forging ahead. Mississippi, for example, Florida is considering. There's a number of states, I think we estimate over 20 states are actively considering moving such legislation. Some exactly like SB 1070, others similar. But at the end of the day, in a place like Texas, for example, if the Texas governor is serious about fixing Texas's economy, and they have a $25 billion deficit in the state of Texas, why are they going to spend millions of dollars on trying to pass and then defend an SB 1070 law that at the end of the day will just cost the state of Texas, again, millions of dollars in tax money and cause incredible harm in communities throughout the state? So you have governors and legislatures who have been elected to say we're going to fix the economy, but instead are just scapegoating immigrants. They have to make a decision.
Look, Ray, there's tremendous frustration among the American people. They want this problem solved. And in the absence of Congress and the president working together to solve it, I understand some of the impulse for it. Now, many right-wing politicians are exploiting that frustration with laws that are clearly unconstitutional, in my view, and quite frankly, undermine the kind of, racial comedy in many of these states. I mean, Arizona, 30% of the state is Latino. And much smaller percentage of Latinos are here without papers. But this puts the entire, you have fifth-generation veterans who are afraid that they're going to be stopped and have to produce papers to prove that they're American. That's insulting. So I think that this kind of rush to Arizona laws by many Republican state legislatures is kind of a fad. I think the courts will hold strong, and I think politically there'll be a backlash against it at some point. But the frustration is Americans want their government to solve it. They want a national solution, and at some point, and I predict it's going to be in the next few years, I think there will be a bipartisan breakthrough on immigration reform. But because what you're seeing is that in the absence of the parties coming together and solving it, you're having attacks on the Constitution. You're having kids who grew up here being stopped and deported. You have a divisive racial battles over SB 1070 copycats around the country. This is not the way to run a railroad. We need a 21st century immigration system. Look, I thought President Obama was very strong in the State of the Union address. I thought he issued just the right challenge. I wish he had done it a year ago, but I'm glad he did it now. I have no doubt that the majority of Democrats want to work on this. I think the real question is whether Republicans in the Senate, like John McCain, John Kyle, John Cornyn, guys who have said they want to do, are going to actually work on a national solution. That's the way to solve the problem. State laws, a lot of sound and fury, solving nothing, leading to expensive lawsuits. And I think it's about time that our leaders stepped up and stopped scoring points off this issue and started solving it.